Welcome to our deep dive on AI debates. We're your hosts from AI for the People, and we're so excited to kind of dig into some of the biggest conversations that are swirling around AI right now.
Absolutely. AI is everywhere these days, and it seems like every time you refresh the headlines, there's another hot take, another debate.
Oh, for sure. And, we see this all the time on AI for the People. Our show, like even just looking at this IBM report we've been talking about, 72% of execs are actually holding back on AI investments.
Yeah.
They're worried about ethics.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It is. It's huge. So we have to ask, is that like smart or are they missing out on a huge opportunity?
Well, I mean, it's a valid concern, right? I mean, on the one hand, you don't want to just jump in head first without thinking about, consequences and unintended consequences. But this tech is moving so fast, you don't want to get left behind.
Totally. And what's interesting is IBM actually breaks down AI ROI into three different types. So you have like economic, of course, but also capabilities and even reputational.
It's not just about the money. It's about how AI changes what companies can actually do and how people see those companies.
Ooh, that's a good point. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, clearly.
Sure.
Let's start with this idea that AI is just like inevitable. It's this force of nature, can't stop it, so why even try?
Right.
Researcher Timnit Gebru pushes back on this idea hard, and she makes a really compelling argument.
She does.
What did you think?
Well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about Gebru's take is that she reframes AI as a choice. It's not some, unavoidable future. It's a bunch of decisions we're making right now. Individuals, companies, governments, about how this stuff gets developed and used.
Yeah.
And that means we have power. We have responsibility.
Right. It's not like some wave that's going to crash over us. It's like we get to decide what we build with it.
Exactly.
Which brings us to you, dear listener. Think about it. Where are you already seeing AI being used in ways that maybe make you a little uncomfortable? Anything coming to mind?
Well, I mean, I think it's easy to get caught up in all the, cool stuff in the future, but AI is already being used in a lot of systems that, directly impact people's lives right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Things like, social services or healthcare or even education.
Yeah.
We got to be really careful there that we don't prioritize efficiency over human values.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that leads us to another big debate bias in AI. Now, we hear a lot about debiasing data sets, which, sounds good in theory, but Gebru and her colleague Alex Hanna, they argue that it's not that simple.
Right. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a fresh coat of paint. It might look better, but the problem's still there.
And to really get why this is such a challenge, you have to think about just the massive amount of data that is used to train these AI systems.
Yeah.
It's scraped from all over the internet. It's a logistical nightmare to even begin to identify all the potential sources of bias. And then on top of that, you've got the legal issues around who even owns this data, which Mehtab Khan has written a lot about.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Right. Like, where do individual rights come in? It's complicated.
Okay, so debiasing isn't some magic solution.
Nope.
So what do we do? What does it actually look like to build a better AI? And this is where Gebru's work gets really interesting.
Yeah, she's a big advocate for what she calls community-rooted research.
Okay, I like it.
And it's this idea that, instead of starting with the tech and then looking for a problem to solve, you start with a community, their needs, their values, and then you ask, okay, can AI actually help here?
I love that.
Uh-huh.
It's about making sure AI is built with people,
Right.
not just imposed on people.
Exactly.
And Gebru's organization, they're putting this into practice with some amazing work in South Africa.
Right. They're using satellite imagery to study spatial apartheid. And what's so cool about this is that they didn't just show up with algorithms and say, hey, we've got all the answers. They spent months building relationships with local researchers and activists, really understanding the issues on the ground. And then they worked together to design these AI tools that could be, actually useful for the community.
That is so cool. I wish we had time to go deeper into that. Maybe that's a future episode of AI for the People.
Right.
But for now, let's talk about some of the anxieties that people are feeling about AI. The 6 p.m. AI debates episode we keep mentioning, they talked about everything from job displacement to, election interference to even the whole ChatGPT crisis in education.
Yeah, and all of that really speaks to the need for AI that's aligned with human values, right? I think when people are scared of AI, a lot of that comes from this feeling that this tech is being developed and used without their input or consent.
That's a good point. So it's not just about the tech, it's about social and political change too.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another key takeaway from that 6 p.m. AI debates episode. The need for more diverse voices in AI development.
For sure. This can't just be a bunch of, tech bros making all the decisions.
Right. We need people from all different backgrounds, disciplines. Imagine philosophers working alongside coders.
That's the dream.
It's not just about technical skills, it's about understanding human impact.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do with AI for the people.
Yeah.
Create a space where everybody can learn about AI, share their thoughts, and, be part of shaping this technology for the better.
It's about recognizing that AI isn't some separate force. It's a reflection of us, our choices, our values, our hopes for the future.
Okay, so let's pause here for a second, recap what we've covered so far.
Yeah.
We started by challenging this idea that AI is inevitable.
Right.
It's not a destiny, it's a choice.
A series of choices.
Yes. Then we dug into the complexities of bias in AI, why debiasing isn't enough, and, this tricky questions about who owns data and all that. And finally, we talked about the need for community-rooted research, building AI that's aligned with human values and addresses the real needs of diverse communities.
So in part 2, we're going to get into some of the specific ways that AI is being used right now and what that means for different industries and for all of us.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into AI debates. It's awesome to see so many of you joining us from AI for the People.
So in part 1, we were talking about some pretty big concepts, but I want to get a little more down to earth now. Like, how is this stuff actually playing out in the real world?
Yeah.
What does it mean for us, like, day to day?
That's a great question. And I think a perfect place to start is with something that's probably on a lot of people's minds, jobs. Are robots really going to, take over everything?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
And the 6 p.m. AI debates, folks, they did not shy away from that fear at all.
Yeah.
Some experts are predicting that by 2050, 40% of jobs could be automated.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It's huge.
It is significant, but it's important to remember, I think, that, technological advancements have always disrupted the job market. I mean, look back at the Industrial Revolution or even the rise of computers. Jobs were lost for sure, but new ones emerged. The key is adaptation, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
So it's not about resisting change, but figuring out how to, ride the wave. And so a big part of that is education and training.
Exactly. We need to be equipping people with the skills they need to thrive in a future where AI is just, part of the landscape.
And not just technical skills, right? Things like critical thinking, creativity, complex problem solving, those are going to be even more important.
For sure, especially as AI takes over more of the routine tasks.
This actually reminds me of something we talk about a lot on AI for the People, this idea of human-centered design.
Right.
We need to be building AI systems that complement human capabilities, not replace them entirely.
Yeah, AI should be a tool that empowers us, not something that, takes away our agency.
Right.
And that brings us to, I think, another crucial aspect of AI application, the potential for misuse. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that this technology can be used for, harmful purposes, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah, this is where things get a little scary. The 6 p.m. AI debates episode touched on some pretty dark stuff, like deepfakes, election manipulation, the spread of misinformation.
And those are serious concerns, and they really highlight the need for, robust safeguards and ethical guidelines around AI development and deployment.
For sure.
On a technical level, we need tools that can detect and combat AI-generated fakes. But just as important is, fostering critical thinking skills and media literacy in the general public.
So people can be savvy consumers of information, whether it's coming from a human or a machine.
Exactly. And it also underscores the importance of having, diverse perspectives involved in shaping AI policy and regulations.
Oh, for sure.
This can't just be left to, the tech developers. We need ethicists, social scientists, legal experts, community representatives. All voices need to be at the table.
It's not just about building smarter AI. It's about building a smarter society around AI.
Exactly. And that requires engaging in these difficult conversations, raising awareness, and demanding accountability from those who are, developing and deploying this technology.
Speaking of accountability, let's talk about another area where AI is already having a huge impact, healthcare. This is a field with so much potential, for AI to do amazing things like improve diagnoses, personalized treatments, even discover new cures.
Right. I mean, imagine AI algorithms that can, analyze medical images with greater accuracy than human doctors, or predict disease outbreaks before they happen.
That would be incredible.
The possibilities are really exciting. But of course, like any powerful technology, there are, ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Data privacy and security, for example, that's paramount. Medical information is incredibly sensitive. We need really strong safeguards to prevent, breaches and misuse.
And then there's the issue of bias, which we talked about before.
Mm.
If AI algorithms are trained on data that reflects existing healthcare disparities, they could perpetuate or even worsen those inequalities.
Right. So we need to make sure that AI in healthcare is promoting equity and access for all, not just for certain populations. And that requires, careful attention to the data that's being used to train these algorithms, as well as ongoing monitoring and evaluation to catch any unintended consequences.
So it's like this balancing act.
Hmm.
We want to unleash the power of AI to really revolutionize healthcare, but we also need to be careful and thoughtful about how we do it.
Exactly. And this is where, that idea of human-centered design comes back into play. AI in healthcare shouldn't be about replacing doctors and nurses. It should be about empowering them with better tools and insights so they can provide even more effective care.
It's collaboration, not replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to another area where AI is making big waves: education. Talked about the whole ChatGPT crisis briefly, but there's a lot more to explore here when it comes to AI and learning.
Yeah, we've seen this huge explosion of AI-powered educational tools, everything from personalized learning platforms to automated grading systems. And these tools have the potential to really transform the way we teach and learn, create more engaging and effective learning experiences for all students.
Yeah, imagine a world where AI can tailor content to each student's individual needs and learning style, give personalized feedback and support. That's pretty amazing.
It is. But of course, there are challenges and ethical concerns that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, for sure.
For example, how do we ensure that these AI systems are fair and unbiased, especially when it comes to assessing student performance?
What about the role of teachers? Are we heading towards a future where robots replace teachers?
I don't think so. Just like in healthcare, I see AI as a tool that can, augment and support the work of teachers, not replace them. The human connection, the ability to inspire and mentor, those are qualities that AI simply can't replicate.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, where technology and human expertise complement each other and create this, more dynamic and enriching learning environment.
And that's exactly why we created AI for the people. To explore these complex issues, share different perspectives, and empower everyone to be part of shaping a future where AI benefits all of humanity.
So as we wrap up part 2, we've seen how AI is already impacting the future of work, healthcare, and education, raising all these exciting possibilities, but also some, serious ethical challenges.
And before we get to the grand finale in part 3, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the applications of AI we've discussed today? What are your hopes or concerns? Share your insights, because this conversation needs your voice.
All right, welcome back to AI Debates. It feels like we've gone everywhere, from big ideas to real-world examples. Now, this final part, let's zoom out a little bit, look to the future. Where is all this headed? And what can we do to make sure that, AI is actually a force for good in the world?
That is the million-dollar question, and to be honest, it's something that we think about all the time on AI for the people. We've talked about the risks and challenges, but it's also important to remember that AI has the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems.
Oh, for sure. It's not like AI is good or bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. The question is, how do we make sure it's used for good?
Exactly. And that's where this idea of AI governance comes in. We need strong frameworks, regulations, international collaborations, all of that to guide the development and use of AI in a responsible way.
Okay, so AI governance, what does that actually mean, like in practice? Is it about laws, ethical standards? Who's in charge of all this?
It's all of that. It's a very, complex, evolving landscape. We need regulations that address things like data privacy, algorithmic bias, the impact of AI on jobs and the economy. But we also need ethical guidelines that promote transparency, accountability, fairness.
Okay, and who's in charge of making those rules? Is it governments?
Yes.
Tech companies? The UN?
It's going to take a village, We need governments to step up and create sensible regulations. Tech companies need to prioritize ethics in their development processes. International organizations can help with cooperation and knowledge sharing. But ultimately, this is a conversation that needs to involve everyone.
Which brings us back to something we talked about before, the need for more diverse voices in this whole AI landscape.
Right. If we want AI to benefit everyone, not just a select few, We need to make sure that its development and governance reflects a wide range of perspectives and values.
And Timnit Gebru, she talks about this idea of decolonizing AI, which I think is so powerful. It's about
Right.
challenging, the dominance of like the Silicon Valley worldview and making space for voices and knowledge from communities all over the world.
It's about recognizing that this isn't just a tech issue, it's a social issue, a political issue, a cultural issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why, shows like AI for the People are so important. We're trying to create this space where everyone can learn about AI, share their thoughts, and get involved in these conversations.
Because the future of AI is not set in stone. It's a future that we are all creating together through the choices we make.
And those choices matter. They matter for our jobs, our health, our relationships, even our democracy.
We're at a turning point, and it's up to all of us to make sure that AI is used to build a future that is just equitable and sustainable for everyone.
So to our listeners, we say this: stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future of AI is in our hands, and the conversation starts now.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into AI debates and want to learn more, we invite you to check out our show, AI for the People. We'll be back with more episodes exploring these complex topics and empowering everyone to shape a future where AI benefits us all.